Hi, Abra, if you can see us.
All right.
Almost ready.
We are, but we're ready.
Okay,
we're live.
We're live. Hi.
Hello! Happy Wine Wednesdays!
Happy Wine
Cheers!
Wednesday.
Salud!
Cheers.
From all of us at Bonobo, thank you guys for joining us on another fantastic, wonderful Wednesday.
The last Wednesday of
August. Of the summer, basically.
Gosh, this time is going by fast.
So sad. Hope you guys enjoyed your summer. Hopefully it was amazing, fantastic, and wonderful. And hopefully,
best you can make it.
Yeah.
With masks and social distancing.
Which is still strange, but
yes.
you know, we're getting into
you
fall.
Make the most of it if you can.
Yeah, make the most of it. The cool thing is, we have been doing some really fun stuff here at the winery on our Wine Wednesdays, because now we're doing a really fun VIP package where people can come here for dinners and join us. And we have a reserved set of people outside. We're only trying to keep it between 10 to 15 people. We're trying to keep it at that number. We have a lot of space here at Bonobo, so we're keeping everybody outside, socially distanced apart with your crew. And, you know, we get the chefs on Wednesdays, or wine enthusiasts, and we get to cook from their book. And today
we're so excited because we have Abra Berens here with us, who wrote this fantastic cookbook called Roughage.
New York Times bestseller.
Practical Guide to Vegetables. She is locally from here, from this region.
We'll just say region. We like to spread the region out. I mean, it's kind of downstate, but still, she's a farm up here. So
she was a farmer. So she has a very
she still is a farmer.
Will always be a farmer.
Yeah.
But has such an intimate relationship with the vegetables.
Yeah.
And that makes it, I think, even more cool to like have amazing recipes from her, because she's experienced it in such an intimate way from literally farm to table.
Yeah, she has such a passion for the food and the place. And we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive once she gets on here in a little minute, because she has the perspective of like what a lot of people say, farm to table, but she has a couple different areas where I found, and she can explain more, of where she studied, who she was taught by, and who she worked under, and how she got to where she is today, and how she appreciates that simplicity of what is at your place, what is at your farm is what we're cooking. And Roughage is kind of a funny story too, how she came up with that name, but we'll let her share that with you in a little bit.
Yes.
But before we do that, we're going to talk to
what we're cooking.
Yes.
What we're cooking with Cornell and Dobby.
Yeah, sure. Cornell, what's up?
Not a whole lot, just an amazing dinner again tonight. So we are really happy to share with our folks outside on the deck tonight. Obviously, this is a charcuterie board that they get out there, but then we're going to delve into our first course here, which is going to be a curry butternut squash soup. So there's a little bit of maple syrup in there, some coconut milk, really spicy and really tasty.
You created that recipe, right?
Yes. So
yes.
Played around with a few different ideas, and hopefully knock it out of the park tonight. And then we're going to use Abra's corn kernel recipe as well, with the corn kernels we got the corn from Sarah Harding's farm market here in Travers. And then we added, the recipe called for some soya beans, tomatoes. We have a little, instead of red onions, we used some shallots, and just dress it up a little bit. And then with that, we're going to add a chili lime flank steak, which Todd and Dobby is busy flanking right now or something, but we'll see. So it's going to be a meal that's going to be really spicy and a lot of flavor. And the two wines that we have, the Riesling and the Pinot Gris, it's going to be top notch tonight.
Great. And why do we choose Pinot Gris and the Riesling?
The Pinot Gris, both of them, the Pinot Gris and the Riesling, has really nice acidity, different flavor profiles. Mm-hmm. The same with what we have here, with the two different dishes, the butternut squash with the cinnamon, kind of like an allspice, pumpkin spice kind of thing going on. Going to go well with that. It has a little kick in the end, some red chili flakes that I used in there. And then with her salad and the flank steak, I think the Riesling's going to go well, especially with the acid and the flavors that we have. That's going to be right up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, let's go down to Todd and Dobby, like Cornell said, because they are doing some serious cooking right downstairs. Todd, Dobby?
Okay, we good? We are, I'm literally standing in the smoke of this fire that's cooking out here. And Davi's out there getting all those coals nice and ready because we're going to throw this great flank steak on. But of course, if I move too close, I'm going to get a little internet problem that I discovered. So Davi, as you can see over my shoulder, is doing this. And Davi, if you want to show that flank steak real quick. We are in the flames down here.
Right.
Oh.
Big steaks.
Yeah.
Wow. So amazing. Such wonderful production quality here.
Pieces of that.
Brunel's going to be a little out of breath. He just ran across the whole building. So here's Cornell. He made it.
Wow. That fast.
Okay, so you were in full grilling mode out there.
Well, I think we'll see you guys in a little bit. And thank you for sharing all the grilling. You know, it's funny because that grill has moved from downstairs to the patio to the back underneath the little
it was raining.
car cover when it was raining. So we've had a lot of different areas that's been, and now it is downstairs and we don't have good internet connections. So that's going to be that. But again, we are cooking one of Abra's delicious meals, and we've like sort of changed a little bit. And the cool thing is about Abra that, you know, we were talking to her a little bit yesterday, and you know, she has such a philosophy, which I can't wait for you guys to hear this, her philosophy on how she cooks. But she's also so gracious because we're telling her the little twist that we're going to do, and she's like, "Yeah, take it, go with it, do what you want to do." She's like, "That's how cooking should be done." And you know, look, without further ado, I think we should bring her on because she is on the horn as we speak. Everybody, please, with a warm welcome, Abra Berens.
Hi, Abra.
Hello, hello,
Hi.
hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We are great.
Doing well.
I'm
It's
so excited.
warm. It's humid.
I know August is really ending with quite a vengeance, it feels like, but thankfully somebody's going to be standing over a hot grill in a little bit.
I know.
I know, right? I know.
We're going to come out like red face dripping.
Yeah.
Well,
I know you also said you had a little bit of internet connection, a little like sort of like we do where you're at, a little trouble with that. So at times if you do, you know, click out, that's okay. Just come back to us. We'll be here. We're not going anywhere.
That sounds good.
So tell us, Abra, there's so many questions, the cool thing about, you know, talking to you right now, not with all, just obviously all your success, we want to get to that, but you're also your local tie because, you know, we've heard for years that, you know, this region, this area is sort of playing out of its league with chefs, with wines, with a lot of like the culinary aspects of it, with the farming. And you've sort of been at all different levels of those stages for a little while. Can you give somebody for like, say, who's watching in like California, a little bit about why you love this region so much?
Well, so I moved to Northport in 2009. I grew up downstate in Michigan, about 20 miles south of Holland, Michigan. And then in 2009, my friend Jess Peace Corps and I started farming on his family's land. So we wanted to do start a vegetable farm and do dinners on our farm that would showcase, you know, exactly what we were growing, kind of be a snapshot of a particular place at a particular time on a plate. And that's what I've always been really passionate about from, you know, I went to cooking school on a 100-acre working organic farm, and I grew up in a farming family and really feel like, you know, as trite as it is, chefs can't do anything if there isn't good product, and that comes from farmers, and so generally, or foragers, and so wanting to kind of showcase that. So I moved up to Northport sort of on a whim. I, you know, knew I had come to Traverse City as a kid and gone skiing in the area and things like that, and then just really fell in love with it. And the community is so warm and engaging and welcoming, and just welcomed both Jess and I. I mean, Jess is from this area, so it was a little bit I think more comfortable for him. But I was just amazed at how people were so welcoming. And then, you know, to realize the sheer quality of the food in this area and the wine region too. You know, where I live downstate in Berrien County right now, where I'm in the process of commuting back and forth between the two. I work at an organic vegetable farm, and there is one other organic vegetable farm in the county. And Traverse City has what, like 7 or something, like, you know, Meadowlark and Loma Farm and, you know, Birch Point and Nine Bean Rose, all these different places. For an area people often think is desolate in the winter, or you can't grow anything because it's so far north, and just really not true. And that's been supported by the local population and also the people who come up to visit. And I think when you have good farms, you have, you know, chefs gravitate towards it too. So yeah, that's part of why I love it here. But yeah.
You're such a good spokesperson for the region. You should be on a Pure Michigan.
You gave me a call.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this. Like, when you went from Ballymaloot to Northport, there's got to be a pretty big difference there, right?
Yeah, so Ballymaloot is the cooking school where I went to culinary school after going to college. And, you know, it's interesting though, because their growing season is very different. I mean, Ireland's on an island, it's much more temperate, it's all those things. But, you know, nobody really thinks about England or Ireland and it's like, oh, the hot cuisine of Ireland, you know, it's like, so a lot of people say, you know, you're going to cooking school in Ireland, like, what are you going to learn how to, like, you know, 5 beers and a potato or whatever is the like but it's, you know, they have tremendous growers and really beautiful dairy that comes off of those green hills and all those things. So I think there's something very similar to coming from a region that is maybe less lauded for its culinary attributes, but those attributes are there, you know. And I think we were talking about this yesterday, that you know, Michigan is the second most agriculturally diverse state in the nation after California. And so when people say like, yeah, right?
Yeah, I had no idea.
And, you know, and so when people say like, well, what can you eat? Or like, you know, we do farm dinners all year round, and people say, well, what do you have in February? Like snow? And it's like, well, yeah, and a lot of other stuff too. And so it's really fun to play with some of those, I think, preconceptions about what the Midwest is and what the Northern Midwest is.
Sure. Okay, I have a ton of questions for you, but I know Amy has been, you know, rifling through your book at a rapid pace.
Well, I love that you focus on plants and being more plant-based, and the way that you talk about grains and beans and just ways of preparing things that are delicious and good for you and simple, and also how you store, you know, vegetables. And you know, I think that it's nice to have some guidelines. Like your cookbook has so many great guidelines that a lot of cookbooks don't have. You know, most cookbooks are just like, here's a bunch of recipes, have fun, they taste good. But like yours is like a really good, like, sort of way of life and how to help somebody in the kitchen. Last night we did make your pureed smoky eggplant pasta. That was so delicious, with the walnut relish and the mozzarella and basil and
the lemon kick at the end.
I know.
Yes, it was great. And then the basil added to it. I feel like you're obviously, your thing is making the vegetables the main attraction, because a lot of people, not a lot, but a few people, I guess I would say a lot of people don't really look at that way, correct?
Yeah. Well, and that's something that changed for me specifically with farming. You know, I came up in kitchens that were very much in the like nose to tail era, and, you know, no food waste. So we're going to eat all the organ meat. And I was like so excited about like big meaty things. And then we did, you know, growing vegetables, and I was surrounded by them in a new way. And B, we were making menus that were based on what we were growing. So that was going to be vegetables, which necessarily predicated, you know, them being sort of the star. But then also, you know, it was just a truly like different lifestyle. And then there's a story in the book about going back to Chicago, because when I was farming, I was always commuting back and forth between Northport and Chicago. And so I would go back to Chicago in the fall and cook all winter. and inevitably would work at a pie shop. Who's Your Mama Pie Company would hire me to, especially around Thanksgiving. And so I was like, all right, I'm going back to Chicago. I'm going to like eat a bunch of pie. I'm going to eat a bunch of cheese and salami and all the things that I missed because I had been eating like carrots, kale, you know, all the things that we had still at the farm. And then I found that I just really missed it. And I didn't feel great. And so I'm certainly not somebody who's like, oh, if you just eat vegetables every day, it'll like solve all your woes. But it, I mean, it kind of does, I guess. At least it did for me. And so realizing how much better I feel when I have a pretty plant heavy diet, but I still eat a lot of dairy and I eat meat and all those things. So I don't think I'm not dogmatic about it one way or the other. I just know that I prefer it. And it was the thing I knew the most about. So that's what we wrote the book on.
And also, you know, I think if you don't grow up with parents that know how to cook well, a lot of people don't like vegetables or they like a very few. And I think it's a nice reintroduction for people to enjoy vegetables in a new way that is obviously healthy and does make your body feel really good, but it's also really tasty. And especially at this season of summer, everything's pretty much in season. So you could eat so fresh and, you know.
Yeah.
It's just like you have this like array, like we're focusing on corn right now because corn's on every stand and in all the markets and stuff. But to try to eat seasonally, but when you say going back to what you eat in February, are you just focusing on the root vegetables?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is a lot of the root vegetables and it's a lot of storage crops, but then, you know, there's a number of people who are growing greens in the winter, and the kale and the chard and things like that will last a really long time, and storage cabbage, things like that. So there are fresh things too. And one of the things I really love at the dinners that we do at Grainer Farm downstate here is that the last succession in our hoop houses is a succession of greens that go into the hoops at like the end of October, early November. And we never sell those at market. They're only for the dinners. And so they get rooted and established in the fall. They go a little bit dormant in December because they don't have very much light, but then they start to come back right away in January once we get past the solstice. And so we'll have fresh greens harvested out of the hoops, you know, all year. And that's not heated. It's not anything. It's just solar heat. And so I really think that there's a ton, you know, I think there's this idea of farming in some ways that it's either like these massive industrial farms that are thousands of acre and super high tech technology, GPS trackers and all that stuff, or it's like very antiquated, you know, like, you know, old McDonald kind of style. And I think there's a tremendous amount of creativity that's going into food production. I mean, to navigate climate crisis and all of the changes that are happening with that, but then also just how to get, you know, different foods in different areas between season extenders or, you know, heating your hoops or storage different ways, things like that. I think there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into having that food. And, you know, I also buy eggplant in the wintertime because I freaking love it. And sometimes I just like don't want to eat parsnips anymore. And so, right. You know, I think it's fine too. And I think it's just, again, I'm not dogmatic about any of it. I think it's just like, do what you want to do, but maybe be deliberate about it or be conscious about it. But I mean, you guys must feel the same way with wine. And Carter, you and I were talking yesterday about sort of the agricultural nature of the wine industry and, you know, sort of that seasonal living of it too. Do you find what you drink changes with the season and what your winery is showing?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I don't even think that I look at it that way, you know, as far as what you consume, as far as like alcohol or not, just, you know, so liquid in general is like probably does change as well, you know, with the seasons or where you're located at. And, you know, like we're, again, just referring to yesterday's conversation, we were just talking about how, you know, a lot of people come in here. And the one thing that what I love to see here at the winery is how many people come in and they want to make sure that the wine was grown from this peninsula. You know, they want to make sure that the grapes were grown here, that the wine was made here. You know, they ask those questions, and that's really fun to see because we know that level of awareness of this region is becoming more and more popular and more interesting, you know, that people are having conversations about it.
Yeah. And that people are understanding that they have power in their choices. And so that, you know, like we saw that with COVID in the spring, was just people wanting to spend their dollars in a way that was, you know, really impactful. And so suddenly the like groundwork that had been laid by the local food movement, people coming in and saying like, we want to support small farms, we want to eat locally, we want to like have our dollars have impact in our local economy. And that's exactly what the local food movement has been talking about. And it's great because it means, you know, also people are cooking at home more and maybe rediscovering that. And I would imagine that the same is true with wine, that I think it's taken a long time for people to understand the value of wines produced in the region. And like, I mean, I'm drinking this Riesling that you were so generous to give me, and I have no idea how much it is, but I would pay like $40 for this. This is so delicious.
Hey! Swing this camera on and let her tell Cornell that.
What?
This is a $40 bottle of wine, this Riesling. It's so delicious and like is totally making my day.
Wow.
How do you feel?
I feel great. Thank you. That's an awesome compliment. Davi is my partner in crime and, you know, creating these wines and stuff. So, yeah, it's great to hear that. And, yeah, we value your feedback. It's awesome. Thanks.
Well, there you go. You stumped them, and they don't know what to say, which is always good. I know. Again, we're going to have one question from people who are on the patio here in a little bit.
Wait, can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
Abra, can I ask you in your cookbook, what is like one of your favorite personal recipes in here? Because it's obviously so hard to choose because you have so many of them look so good. But do you have like a couple go-tos that you always make? Or
I mean, this time of year, we're getting into pepper season, and I love bell peppers so much, and so I do really love that braised pepper recipe with the paprika roasted potatoes and a like soft boiled egg or poached egg on top. Mostly because a lot of what I do at Grainer Farm and what we'll do at Farm Club as well is kind of absorbing the excess of the season. And so, you know, inevitably we have so many peppers that come on, and there's only so many peppers that people can buy in any given week. And so I'll get those and then stew them down in our wood oven and cook them down into pepperonata, which freezes really well. And so that's something we can showcase in the winter with the dinners and things like that. So I do really love that. I also just really love right now, like tomatoes. There's a cucumber recipe in there, and we're a little bit past, we're out of cucumbers at Grainer, and I think Loma still has some, but cucumbers and cottage cheese and cherry tomatoes and like a parsley oil and just those like really simple salads. You know, like tonight we're going to roast some eggplant and have some tomato, and I don't think there's much else going on, but it's so fun. It's like so easy to cook right now, which is so nice because it's also really busy this time of year. So it's nice that the cooking is easy, but.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you know, and that's, we haven't even touched on that, but you know, you obviously you went to U of M. You worked at Zingerman's Deli. That's kind of like, you know, one of your, I mean, that's right there is pretty amazing. And I don't want to sit on that because there's so many other things. Obviously you're at Grainer Farms right now, but Farm Club TC is your new project that you're up here in Traverse City, and you're lending a lot of your time, and you're going to be up here maybe full time here pretty soon. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so right now it's I have known Nick and Sarah Tyson, who are the owners of Loma. And for those of you who don't know, Farm Club is a collaboration between Nick and Sarah, who own Loma Farm, and Gary and Allison Jonas, who own the Little Fleet. And it is primarily a farm. It's a 35-acre vegetable farm that's on 641, just north of Fouch. So like, I think it's like 7 miles north of Traverse City in the county. And it also has a brewery with Corey Valdez, who's brewing the beer. And it's just, I'm not a huge beer person, and I love all of these beers. They're lower ABV, and they're just really great with food. They're like nice, like, oh, they're just so good. And there's also a market and then a restaurant. And so I had been talking with them about putting in some of the experiential dining that we've piloted at Bare Knuckle, which was the farm I had in Northport, and then also that we do at Grainer Farm, which are, people arrive, they do a tour of the farm and have 7 courses based on what we're growing. And then as luck would have it, it just sort of worked out for me to come on sooner. So we're getting the restaurant up and going at Farm Club, and then we'll roll into all of these other sorts of programming too, which hopefully will include wine dinners that you guys will want to come and do one with us too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be such a great space. I mean, it already is. It's so cool. The architecture is amazing. The building's amazing. And working with Loma Farms, I mean, it's just a home run.
Is that actually kicking off in the fall, or is it going to be like more spring or something?
So the business is open. It opened in the middle of July, and then we've been doing.
I mean, with you though.
Oh yeah. So I'm there right now because I have some responsibilities still downstate, and those will continue for a while. So I'm there like 4.5, 5 days a week, and then I'm downstate a couple of days a week. But we have food coming out of the kitchen, and then we'll roll into an expanded menu kind of mid-September. I can staff up and get all the infrastructure and everything.
How exciting!
One really side question? Do you still eat pickles?
I do. I actually eat more pickles now.
What? How is that true from your stories? Okay, if you don't know, you grew up on a pickle farm, right?
Well, it's funny though. I mean, that's the thing about how farming really changed it. So I grew up on this industrial pickle farm, and it was my father's family who were pickle farmers, which means cucumbers. The jar doesn't grow on the plant, and so. But we never really made that many pickles. It wasn't an identity in the same way that it was for Jess and I, or that it is for Nick and Sarah, where, Nick and Sarah use this really wonderful phrase called the farmer's privy of really, unless you're growing your own food or have access to a CSA, only the farmer is privy to the feeling of a watermelon that's still warm from the sun when you cut it open, or the head of radicchio that's been in storage, all winter, and you're peeling back the slimy layers, and you've got the nice head inside, and just what that means to get to eat those things. And that's definitely not how I grew up. My grandma would make some pickles, but yeah, we do a lot of pickling now, and a lot of brining and fermented pickles and things like that. So.
That's good. You still eat it. I like hearing that. I was thinking you were going to go the other way, but you didn't. All right. Hey, Abra, do you mind? We have a select group of VIPs outside who are going to have a wonderful dinner from your cookbook, obviously, and Cornell and Davi are cooking it. One of them has a question. Would you mind?
Oh, yeah, of course.
All right, Todd.
Here we are out on the deck, everybody, and we have Marissa that's going to ask a question for us. So go ahead, Marissa, take it away.
Thanks, Todd. Hey, Abra. So my husband and I and our family, we live in the area. And this summer, we subscribed to a CSA. So we've been getting lots of interesting fruits and veggies. And we've been trying to come up with creative things with what to do with them. Currently, this past week, I got a ton of heirloom tomatoes. You did mention tomatoes earlier, but I'm really curious to know, I'm nervous about cooking them or putting them into salsa where I'd really ruin the beauty of them. And so what do you recommend I do with it where I can preserve both the tasty and the aesthetic?
I mean, that's the funny thing about heirlooms, isn't it? It's they come on so hard. And, really, it's like a salad or cutting them up somehow and having them right then, because they're generally not great saucers. You use a Roma tomato or something like that to sauce them. Cherry tomatoes, I would roast down and preserve those. So I tend to put all of the other tomatoes kind of to the back burner when the heirlooms are coming in, and then just figure out how to put them into every single meal that I can. One of the things I like to do, because they're generally so irregularly shaped and often have very large stems. I mean, they're not a high yielding, chefs sort of hate them because you pay a lot for them, and then there's a lot of stem and there's a lot of splits and things like that. So you end up cutting a fair amount away. So we do a lot of tomato salads with them. So if it's something like an Italian panzanella where you're taking bread and making croutons and then chunking up the heirlooms and putting them in with that. Otherwise, I a lot of times will do big thick cuts of tomato, almost as slabs, and then heap stuff on top. So if it means cooking some chickpeas or some white beans or something like that, and then putting those on top, and then a big salad. So I think for me, I really love just trying to make them be a part of every meal. You certainly could make something like a salsa or a pico de gallo with it, and then that will generally freeze well. The other thing about tomatoes is that you can freeze them just whole. This is something we would do at Zingerman's to make the tomato soup, is we would get all of these beautiful heirloom tomatoes in the summer, and also canners like San Marzanos and things like that. But we couldn't process them all at any one time. So we would just put them into giant bags, and we had so much freezer space that we would freeze them. And then when they thaw, it's almost like you've peeled them, because they'll just kind of slip right out of their skins. And so then you can just pull the skin away and then blend it up to make a soup or something like that with it. But, yeah. Yeah, the glut of heirlooms, though, is a real thing.
What a great tip for
yeah,
tomatoes.
I know. What a good tip.
Do you, when you're freezing them, do you like vacuum seal them? Like, do you suck all the air out, or does it
We would
matter?
just do them in Ziplocs. We have a vacuum sealer at Grainer, and so we will do that now. But yeah, you could do it either way.
Okay. Cool. That's a really good tip.
Okay, Abra, quick question. What do you think gave you the best direction in life? Was it Valley? What is it?
Ballymaloe.
Ballymaloe.
Yeah, it's like that Irish thing.
Ballymaloe Cookery. Was it Ballymaloe Cookery? Was it the Good Food Fest, or was it U of M? Because I heard Good Food Fest kind of gave you there was a really interesting opportunity you had there, correct?
Well, I spoke on a panel at the Good Food Festival, which was hosted by the James Beard Foundation is doing a lot of policy impact stuff where they're activating chefs politically and teaching them how to interact with their legislators. So I would say that, all three of those things are different stages that are probably equally impactful, but for different reasons. So, U of M brought me to Zingerman's, which got me cooking professionally. And then Ballymaloe sort of gave me the confidence to go into kitchens. I mean, it was definitely a cooking school that's geared towards home cooks. And so you don't learn so much that you are arrogant, but you can, I felt personally like I could go into a kitchen and not feel like a total idiot. And so that was nice. And then I could learn from other people. But then the Good Food Festival, that panel really did open, maybe it kept me in food. There's something about different times in my career, I've been sort of like, I just make dinner for people. Like, is that really enough? And all of the chefs that I've worked for over the years have said, yeah, we feel that way too, but we also are able to like employ people and teach people and buy these things and, blah, blah, blah. And so, and those are really meaningful relationships. And I think the Good Food Fest and this policy work, food touches everything. It touches everything we do. Every story in the news right now has a food aspect. If it's between, COVID putting an incredible amount of pressure on our food pantries, if it's about food access and food apartheid in different places that are denied fresh food, if it's farmers' rights, climate collapse, everything, immigration, everything has a food element, and we all need our voices to solve those problems. And I don't think I had really understood that until this policy boot camp, which wouldn't have happened without the Good Food Fest. So that's, again, I feel like I give you very long-winded emotional answers. But,
it's good. It shows your passion and your love for food, and we appreciate that so much. Listen, Abra, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We're so excited that you'll be up here full-time very soon. And if you're up in the Traverse City area, that's Farm Club TC, which it's a cool new hip spot that's super fun, super organic, and Abra will be there. So say hi to her or go buy her book.
Yeah, your book is so fantastic. I just sit there at night studying it. I'm such a nerd, but I'm in bed right before we fall asleep, and I'm just like, So,
well, that makes my day. Thank you so much. It's a funny thing putting something like that into the world, because you're sort of like, is anyone going to read this besides my dad, who I'm actually not convinced has read it. And so it's really meaningful. And also thank you guys for the work that you're doing. I mean, Bonobo is just, it's truly delicious wine. And you know, the Traverse City region, the Northern Michigan region, is so special to our state and is really leading the way, I think, in a lot of places in terms of wine production and how to have these different and sort of modern ways to grow things and to sell them and to make it a more sustainable living for people. And I think you guys are on sort of the forefront of that. So thank you for your work on that. I mean, it wouldn't work without everybody doing it, and you guys are definitely doing it. So thank you for that.
Well, we appreciate that. Oh, I have one more quick question for you. Because you have such a passion from food growth to food waste, right? And so what is the best way to compost food? What have you figured out the best way that you can compost for like just somebody at home?
Well, I guess it depends on how much space you have. Anybody can compost. You know, if you have a fair amount of outdoor space, it is less tricky, but you could always get one of those tumblers or things like that if you don't. I also think that there are organizations that are popping up that are providing that infrastructure for people. So in our area, it's the Bay Area Recycling Center that does the compost at Farm Club. I don't know if they have a domestic program as well, but I would imagine that they would at least know who would do it for you. But I think that any way that you can divert food waste from going into a landfill is certainly of value. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that we had hogs at Bare Knuckle, and they are the fastest way to compost because they
I'm sure. Not everybody has hogs, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, you know, Abra, we had Bay Area Recycling as well for our wedding.
Yeah.
And we had 225 people at our wedding, and we only had one bag of trash because we recycled it, because so much stuff was recyclable, or we could compost it. And the best way that Amy and I like to do is
So we learned a really great tip we work with this nonprofit in LA called Kiss the Ground.
Okay.
And there's actually an amazing documentary coming out in September called Kiss the Ground that Woody Harrelson's narrating. But they taught us how to freeze compost. Can you stop talking? Sorry, we have some visitors in here. We have a bin in our freezer that we freeze all our vegetable and egg shells and, you know, coffee grounds until it just fills up, and then we put it in our composter. But it's really nice because it doesn't get all sludgy and stinky on your counter.
Yeah. Especially this time of year when it's fruit fly season, that's a great idea, because I feel like this is always the time of year that tests my commitment to having a compost on our table. It's just
Man, the fruit flies are insane. Do you have any tricks for that?
No, I mean, pray for frost.
No.
I mean, it's like you keep thinking a bowl of sugar water or like something to...
A vacuum, just a vacuum.
The fly traps that we would make are like a splash of vinegar and then a little bit of dish soap, and then you foam it, and then they get attracted to it and they get caught in the bubbles. But yeah, and then also this electric like tennis racket showed up at Farm Club.
Oh.
And
the zapper.
So fun. I mean, I feel like I have spent so much time doing that. But you know, yeah.
Yeah, the fruit flies are something fierce up here right now. So today we just took all of our vegetables and put them outside when we left this afternoon, or else we'd come back home to just, you know, fruit flies would be living in our bed. So,
hey, Abra, can I ask you just one more question? Sorry, we're just all over tangents, but going back to the peppers that you talked about, I had heard that green peppers were not as digestible because they weren't ripened, but is that true? I feel like there are green pepper varietals that would never turn red or orange or yellow. I mean,
my understanding is that green peppers are an unripened fruit and that they will eventually turn. Something like a poblano tends to turn more of that sort of brown purple than like a red or orange. I don't know how that would affect its digestibility, because we eat lots of things that are immature, like green beans and stuff like that. So I can't speak to that, but yeah, I don't know of any green pepper varietals, and I'm, you know, very likely wrong on this. So hopefully somebody on Facebook, I'm sure, will correct us. But, you know, I think that they will all ripen to another color eventually.
To do a test.
We should do a test.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, listen, Abra, thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
We really appreciate you joining us. And again, if you can, come see Abra and the team over at Farm Club TC up here in Traverse City. And maybe stop by Bonobo Winery if you're up here, why not, and say hello. And Abra, we can't wait to get you back here. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this delicious Riesling. It's my favorite varietal, and this is just so good.
Oh, good.
We love hearing that. Yeah. Cheers. Happy Wednesday.
Cheers. Happy Wednesday. Thank you.
Oh, she's so cool. She's so fun. She said, oh, yeah, you're supposed to drink. Sorry, when you cheers somebody, it's bad luck if you don't.
Cheers.
Salud. Okay, so everybody's eating right now. If you are...
This is her book. I just have to show it again. Look at how thick that is. It's got so many amazing recipes.
It's got a lot of recipes.
Such good information on all the vegetables. So.
And the I'm supposed to say, or else if I don't, somebody's going to say something to me. You can buy if you buy 3 bottles or more with what the next how long do we have? 4 days. If you buy 3 bottles or more, you might as well just buy a case, I guess. And you type in Abra 826. So it's ABRA 826. In the next 4 days, it's free shipping. We all know shipping kind of expensive these days. So we're going to take that away from you. 3 bottles or more in the next 4 days. Abra, so cool. She's so fun to have here. We are cooking up some of her dishes. Cornell and the team actually cooked up right now. They've cooked up this butternut squash soup, which is right there.
This was a Cornell recipe, though.
Yes.
Let's be clear. This was an amazing Cornell recipe. He put together this butternut squash soup with coconut milk and all the curry, and it kind of tastes like delicious pumpkin pie.
Yeah, it does.
Try it.
But the cool thing about this is that, you know, it's a takeoff from what Abra preaches, which is that the vegetables can be the real main course. Now, obviously, a soup, this is a little bit easier, but he's kind of done that with a lot because we also have our corn
I can't wait
salad,
to taste
which is
corn salad from Abra's cookbook because it looks so good, and it's cooked in a little white wine. He used a Pinot Gris to cook it. Delicious.
Oh my gosh, that is so delicious. Wait, you have the Riesling, right?
While you guys are enjoying that, I was sitting there for the longest time. I was looking at Abra and I was like, how do I know her? Like her face was so familiar, and I haven't been to Farm Club TC yet. Obviously, it's the Chicago connection. I would go to Who's Your Mama all the time. That was literally across the street from my apartment. It was one of the best pie shops in Chicago.
Oh, really?
How do you always have a connection with every guest we have on?
I don't know, because I've lived places and I like to eat and drink. So I think that's kind of it.
Well, speaking of, if you want to know this, Jill, we have Sonny Anderson coming up in 2 weeks. We have Marcus Samuelson coming up in, I think, 3 weeks.
Nice.
So both of those chefs, do you know them? Do you want to say now?
I know Sonny Anderson. I don't know her personally. I've seen her on TV, but I met Marcus Samuelson in DC at this food event. I mean, it was a very brief, he will never remember me, so it's totally
okay. Well, maybe we'll ask him when he's on the show because we're going to be cooking one of his dishes, and you know, you can talk to him about it.
Okay.
All right. So we also have, and that is, wait, what's that?
Just saying, so for anyone that wants to join one of these amazing VIP events, as Carter was saying, we've got some amazing guests coming up. So next week we're taking a break and we're doing a nice kind of highlight reel. And then we've got, I know, right? Like highlight reel of all of our.
I know.
That's cool.
So then we've got the 9th and the 16th. Those are all sold out. We're off again the 23rd, but if you want to come and experience one of these VIP dinners with us, your last opportunity will be on Wednesday, September 30th. We have a few tickets left for that night, and then that'll be it.
And I think we have a super cool guest, but they haven't been confirmed just yet. And his name is Todd Oosterhouse. No, just kidding.
Well, here I am, a little early visit, but don't worry about it.
He's writing his cookbook now.
It's a total dad joke. You know, we can say that. Okay, so we're going to be able to go to the guys because they just brought the
flank steak
from
the grill.
Yeah, up here. It took a little bit longer than we anticipated, so we're sorry about the delay. They're actually cutting it up right now. It looks really good. The cool thing about...
But if you turn around right now, you'll just see their butts because they're just busy.
Yeah, they. The cool thing, because we are trying to keep everything, you know, as local as possible. Sarah Hardy Farmers Market downtown is where we got a lot of these local ingredients. If you ever get there on a Saturday or Wednesday, call ahead to get your stuff because they will actually have things ready for you at the individual farms will, which is also really cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's turn the camera on the fellas.
All right.
Cornell.
So we just got the flank steak in here. I'm going to dress it up with a little bit of the seasoning that we made earlier on. And then we are, if I can find my spoon, please. Just, there we go. I'm going to plate this with the salad.
So can you tell us about that salad?
All right, so the salad is the corn, the soya beans in here, the cherry tomatoes, some basil, a little bit of cilantro. But the main course of this is the corn that we cut off the corn stalk, and then we put them in the pan and just slightly brown it up and stuff, and then there we go. And then the wine too. Excuse me. You cooked it with wine. That's right. I added the Pinot Gris and then put the garlic and the onions and stuff in the Pinot Gris. Added the soya beans with it, and then the tomatoes. I put a little bit of butter in there, and voila. And then with the flank steak, you don't want to overcook flank steak, you know. So you want to have it bone dry, so it's nice and medium. And then we did a chili lime marinade, and then we also kept some of that separate, and that's what we're doing on the top here.
Wow, that's fantastic.
All right.
Looks so good.
Smells good. It's going to have a little bit of a kick to it, but the wines will be just fabulous with it. So enjoy.
All right. So, all right, such a chef, and you can see he's like, you know, he's been running all over the place. He and Dobby they're a little out of breath.
Yeah,
He wanted us just to start doing cardio here for Bonobo Winery team. Listen, I think
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we've kind of worn our welcome so far. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We're off next week, but the week after that, we do have not Todd Oosterhouse, but we have Sonny Anderson coming on. And then I'm not sure it's the next week, I think. That's when we have Marcus Samuelson on. And then September 30th, we still have six spots left. Other than that, we're all sold out. But again, September 30th, we'd love to have you join us, please. And cheers. Happy Wednesday.
Cheers.
Have
Happy
a great
Wednesday.
rest of your week.
Yes.
Salud.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, dude.